We're on.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and call this May 26th Finance and Administration Committee meeting to order. Welcome everyone who is here. Hope y'all had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend and was able to commemorate and celebrate the meaning of Memorial Day. We'll go ahead and move right into the agenda. Well, Kyle, do you want to make any public comments?
I'm good.
You're good? All right. Well, we'll go straight on into presentation discussion items, current projects. Sir.
I'll try to hit the same ones that I spoke about at the OMP meeting. That way when you have to do your meeting report, you just say ditto to what we covered there. So the three that I think we spoke of that were worth highlighting is the Seneca Creek Force Main went online. I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago now. And there's still a few items left. I think they still have some punch list items that they have remaining on that project, and we need to get an agreement or basically a bill of sale to transfer that asset from the developer over to us. So we're working to get all that completed right now, but the flow is going through it currently. The rehab project that we received the SCIP money for, one of the three that we received SCIP money for, that was finished. That's been about 2 weeks ago too. I think that finished the same week. And I think that all that may be remaining, if they haven't come and picked it up, has been the silt fence, but it might be a good thing if it's still in place after the rain that we received this weekend. But I believe we made the final payment for that one, haven't we?
Yes.
So that'll be, we cut the check for that, and we'll submit for reimbursement on that project. And then finally, the dewatering project, which is the remaining SCIP project that we have left. It is underway. They anticipate the equipment to be delivered in June. I think that's still the case, with completion coming in late summer. So they feel that they will be able to meet the deadline for all of the submittals, which have to be in Columbia by September 30th. So other than that, I'll let you look through the Exhibit A. If you have any questions about any of those three that I covered or any others, just let us know.
Are there any questions or follow-up questions on the ones that Chris talked about or any others? All right, well, in that case, we'll just go ahead and move on. June committee meeting.
So the O&P committee decided to do this, but typically, after the budget's passed and with vacation for both staff and commissioners taking place, in the past we've had very little to discuss at either committee, and I believe there's going to be consideration to not have the July board meeting possibly as well. So with that said, I wanted to put it out there to see if the committee wanted to decide not to meet next month unless there is a reason to. So we and I believe that's how the O&P left it, left it as a placeholder on the calendar in the event, but if there's nothing beyond just project discussion, we can just cancel it.
Don't have an opinion with the others. Is there comments from the committee?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do know for the July meeting, I'll be out that day, but that's looking too far ahead. So,
Not that far ahead.
yeah.
All right. So I guess here, no opposition unless something arises that we need to meet. Have a good summer.
All right, and then we will we'll go ahead. We will have the July. We'll go ahead and keep that one on schedule. O&P, I believe we may have to rearrange that one due to a municipal association conference or something like that.
Yeah, we may need to do ours as well.
So what we decided to do is once we get into June, we'll probably just go ahead and reach out, have Ms. Kelly reach out to the folks and see if the date that we have, the scheduled date, which is July 28th, will work for everyone. And if not, when would be a good time for everybody to get together before the August board meeting.
Well, yeah, if it was on the 23rd, I was gonna have to get somebody else to lead it anyway, so if we have it. I'm at a church youth group, so you'll get me. Okay, we'll move right on into action items, the year-to-date financial reports.
In your packet is Exhibit B, which is the April 2026 monthly and year-to-date, and there really isn't anything worth going over. We're still in good position here. In fact, I'll get the lead into the next exhibit that we'll go over. But we are in fine standing. I think that you're good, aren't you? As well, Kyle.
Has everyone had a chance to review the April and year-to-date? Any, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion or questions about it? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the April and year-to-date financial reports, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Action items to recommend to the board. Fund transfer authorization number 1 for fiscal number 1. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking, these years are starting to add up. I'm thinking we've already done one. For fiscal year 26, Exhibit C.
So-
All right.
We so normal, we do have it in our policy that we can do normal fund transfers when we receive. What may be a typical example of this? Like SCIP, we receive our SCIP money and it goes into one account that we had set up with RIA for ever since we began doing the Southern Sewer Project, and we have to move funds around. So that's set up where that could be done with just, I believe it's Mr. Bronson and myself typically the ones that will approve those transfers. But this one here, that is a transfer of fund balance from one account to another, requires a resolution. So I've spoken to Lawrence about how to properly do that. If it's approved today, this will go in a formal resolution before the board on Monday for consideration. But what this is to shift funds from the wholesale O&M fund over to the capital projects fund. So this ask is to shift about $564,000. So if you notice and if you go back and take a look at the Secretary Treasurer's report, you'll notice that the cash on hand that we have in that WO&M fund has been building. This fund transfer will still allow us to maintain that 120 days cash on hand, but also to put this into that fund for use for capital projects and other qualifying projects that we do have. And one of the reasons why we have this money allocated is there's been several projects that have come in under budget. But the big one that we had that we budgeted for this year that was approved in the WO&M fund was for us to do work with installing an automatic transfer switch for a generator that would power the entire site. It came in way over budget. So we're just not going to bother with that, at least not as of right now. We're not going to budget for it in the coming year, but by freeing those funds up, it would allow us to do other work in the coming future, or in the future. So we would, recommend or suggest that we make that transfer.
Is there a motion to recommend to the board that we approve this authorization for transfer or fund transfer number 1?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions, comments? Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the board of this fund transfer, please say aye. All right. We'll talk about that one next week. The adoption of the compensation benchmarking study as presented to the board by Fire and Great People on May 4th.
In your package, you have Exhibit D, and this is the document that Ms. Kavanaugh provided to the board at the meeting several weeks ago. So what will be asked today is to formally adopt what her recommendation of where these have been incorporated into the budget as she had provided to us. And just as a reminder, we do have 22 employees, and the financial impact of her implementation compared to the FY26 at least with the approved budget, and I'll kind of caveat that in a second, is about $82,000. That includes wages, retirement, FICA, Medicare, and it works out to be about $3,700 per employee for all employee wage related expenses, including those that I just mentioned. Why I caveat that is, and when you get to looking at the budget too, you'll notice that is not fully captured when you look at line by line, year compared one year to the next, because we actually had some staff that had left when we developed the 26 budget, that their wages were, actually I think most, there were several of them that were of a higher wage that have left. So you'll notice the actual is actually different because the newer staff with less experience they weren't, they were compensated at a different level. Maybe like an example being a technician 2 or 3 that may have left and was replaced by a technician 1, as an example.
All right. Is there a motion to recommend approval to the board of adopting this compensation benchmarking study? Is there a motion to recommend that it is not adopted? All right, come on, somebody's got to say one way or the other.
Get the coin out.
It's your turn.
Did the O&P committee adopt this?
No, they didn't. This falls into the realm of this
This is
committee.
finance.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we do not adopt the study. I'm sorry, but I'm just looking at these wages compared to what we pay, and these are much higher than Light and Water's wages. So, right, our current thought process is we're not recommending an increase, and ours are much below this right now. So it'd be hard for me to recommend an increase here when we're not doing that where I'm at. So I'll make that motion that we do not adopt.
All right, we have a motion to recommend to the board that this not be adopted at this time. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Put it up.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so we'll open it up for discussion or questions. I do have one question for you that roughly 83,000 that it would increase. Does that also include the cost of living and the merit, or only the base salary?
Every bit of it.
That's
is
every bit of
included.
it. That includes
Yes.
the 2% and merit
That's
as well.
correct.
Any idea how much it costs just for the
change in base?
No, I didn't. It's,
Yeah,
everything you
that's fine.
see is calculated based on what was in the study.
Sorry, I jumped in and asked my question first. Anybody else have a question?
That's a great question. I'd be curious to see that number, to see just an annual increase without adopting the full policy.
Any other comments or questions? All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of not adopting this at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, and I'll be opposed at this time, not having the other information yet. Okay, we'll move on to item 4 under section E. I'm sorry, 3. I'm trying to skip one. Adopt general language for the proposed changes to the OJRSA personnel policy manual as presented to the Board of Fine Great People. And we have several different ones, mostly dealing with overtime and pay time off and sick time. So, you want to hit the highlights for us here?
Yes, let me get caught back up with where you are.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, in Exhibit E, this is generally what Carrie had provided to us, but she and Grant Close, our personnel attorney, had not communicated prior to that time. So the document that you have now encompasses everything that we've received back from Carrie as well as Grant. So, assuming that you go through and you approve this to proceed, this will be incorporated into the personnel policy manual.
All right, do we have a motion to recommend approval of these proposed changes to the board?
So that open it up for discussion, correct?
It would.
All right, so moved.
All right, so we have a motion to move this forward. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second. We'll open it up for discussion. Any comments, any changes? Try to find where I was earlier.
Just a couple of things. So where you get, she's saying donated sick leave, eliminate that policy. That's something that I know has come up several times over the years. Folks that have had issues come up. And in some places that's seen as a benefit if something were to come up. I mean, I know I've seen over the years folks that had a few hundred hours of time built up, but they ended up going through that because they had an issue that took a long recovery and they were able to maintain. I just don't think that's a good idea. Whether it gets used a lot or not, if it's used once, I think it's worthwhile having that as an option. And then on the retiree insurance, that's a benefit that I think is, if somebody stays here, they stay time, and that's something that they get to look forward to. Not many places do that, but those that do, I think, stand out. I don't know that the cost is going to be that much because I don't know how many people you would actually have that would stay and qualify for it. But
Now, speak to those. So the donated sick leave, one reason that we had the recommendation to eliminate that, there are several reasons. We have had very few that have asked for this, but one of the things that we have modified, if you go through, and I don't know exactly which page it's on, but I think that, it's another, it's going to be the page 3, the family sick leave portion of it. The ones that we have had that have used it have needed it for family related purposes. So that allows, we only allow for 5 family sick leave days a year. The rest of it, they would have to take it as vacation time. But this allows the use of additional sick leave to be used in those situations, so they can exceed the 5 days. And there's a procedure for how they can make that request to go beyond the 5 days of family sick leave. If it's for the employee themselves, they can request, but they obviously can utilize sick time, they can utilize vacation time, but they also can request additional leave, and that could be approved by the board if so needed. The reason why it was recommended to eliminate the donated sick leave is because you run into the case, and I can see this without getting into specifics, but you can see that there's times where you have some people that donate sick leave and other times that you don't. So what you could run into is issues with morale's not the right word, but where you
Playing favorites.
Yeah, where you play favorites. So that's that's a matter. So you get some that donate to some people and some that don't donate to others that may be under the exact same situation. And from I don't know that I can see that specific playing out, but I do see the variance that it exists where you do have that. Now, I've asked what some of the other cities do, and I remember asking Mr. Mulder, I believe, what Seneca did, and I think what he stated that Seneca, and you may know, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when they had somebody leave the city, they would take and kind of bank some of that employee's sick leave and keep it in a pool. Does this sound kind of correct? And if somebody needed additional sick time, they could pull it out of this pool.
Yeah, so it depends on the circumstance. I mean, if they're retiring, there's a payout of $1 per hour. If they're leaving the city, I don't think we actually keep those hours. I think we keep it when each year your sick time, once you hit a certain level, it's set back to a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
Those unused hours we then bank.
Okay, so
So it's similar, but if someone's leaving, I think those just go away because we carry those as a liability. So we get rid of those, and then our process is similar to what's in here, but it doesn't go to to our board or our council, but it goes to essentially to the administrator who talks to the department head and HR. Before we had a previous HR person who was approving some of those, and that led to some of those circumstances where one got approved that probably shouldn't have, and then it led to bad feelings because the next one in that same department didn't get approved. And so we did clean up that policy, but it has to go through the administrator to have any approval of any use of sick time from someone else.
And the current policy that we have now is that the board chair, office manager, and myself, the 3 of us consider this and have to approve for it to be done, even for the use of donated sick leave. So again, is a difficult, like you mentioned, if people need it, you want them to have the ability to take something in those extreme situations where they do need the extended leave. But that's where Carrie initially recommended eliminating it completely, and I didn't want to do that because I did see the benefit of having it, especially to those that are here that haven't accumulated much in the way of leave that may, they may really need to take it. So this was some of the discussion that we had back and forth and why I inquired how the cities did it. And that was ultimately, I think, between her grant and myself, kind of the best compromise where you're not, the thing too is this is an earned benefit. People, they work and earn the sick leave, and then to have to donate something that they earned to someone else was another matter that had been considered too. So this, again, was decided to be, or determined to be, the best compromise that there was. Then you had asked about something
No,
else,
so
Mr. Parrish, the
The
second.
retiree.
Retiree.
I'm fine. That was a recommendation from Carrie. I could see if you did do it that way, that maybe they would serve so many years here, not come in, work a year, and then be
Yeah,
eligible
no, that,
for retirement.
yeah,
But
you need to have some limits, or some thresholds to be reached to consider for that, but
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, especially if the board chooses not to accept an increase, to still have some type of benefit would be great. And with people, even with rule of 90, I mean, they still have the opportunity to retire before they qualify for any other insurance, so that could help them when it comes close to their retirement. But I agree, we have that you have to work 10 years for us when you retire from us in order to qualify.
Mhm.
Now granted, ours is only a percentage, it's not the full amount, but whether it's 10 years, whether it's 5 years, 7 years, just like state system to be vested in, but something, 10 might be a little bit more.
I'm open to that, and I think that would be a recruitment tool as well.
I mean, I'll throw out 7 years because it takes 7 years to get vested into the state system, so 7 years to get vested here in order to qualify for it.
it was 7 or 8?
Or is it 8?
I think it was 8.
Maybe it is 8.
Is that the new? I knew
I don't
it
know.
was
It was
5.
5
Yeah,
when
it
I
was
came.
5.
Yeah, same.
Do you know when?
It's 8 for tier 3.
Yeah.
It is.
As a,
8, okay. All right, 8 years.
what's your current?
See, my 7 was better.
What's it currently right now for an employee who retires? Like, how long do they have to work here for this to be in effect?
State. We're with state health. I'm not state health. We're with PEVA, state retirement. So whatever they are, whether it's class 2 or 3.
Okay.
But if they leave from somewhere else and it comes
So
So if
Okay.
I come in and work 6 months, you'll pay my insurance.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So we-
that's,
I know for us, we don't have any insurance that carries on after. We'll offer
Yeah, I would
that
think you'd need
you pay
something.
full cost. So
we'll pay 75% if you
75%.
retire from us.
yeah, we have many who are very frustrated that we don't have that. But it can get expensive. So I agree something needs to change because the 6-month thing, that's a,
There needs to be a minimum.
I mean, you could have someone start
Service.
at 18 and retire in 6 months and all of a sudden that's your liability. So
Yeah, I think 8 years would be fine. I would be.
Yeah, I mean, even
Fine
if it's
with that.
5 years, I mean, just something that shows they
Yeah.
have invested in here in order to get, because that's a really good benefit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're gonna do 100%.
You'd have people flocking in if they use 6 months and.
That's
Well,
right.
you just told everybody.
Well,
Just put that, put
Well,
that
remember, this policy, as far as I know, has been in existence for years and decades, and nobody's flocked in yet, so.
in. It wasn't known. I've been here how long? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think
How long's it been? A long?
Well, I mean,
It's been years, hasn't it? It hasn't been a new policy.
And when Bob was here, he was saying we didn't have retiree insurance or retiree coverage.
Did Linda Edwards add that when we did? Because we didn't have a personnel policy manual till right
Yeah, it was
before I
kinda pieced
started.
together.
So that's possible Linda wrote that in and ultimately was approved, because that was, I really think the first personnel policy manual that I could have seen as a single document, not just a lot of standalone policies, was 2016. Does that sound possible?
Right before you got here.
Mhm.
I mean, that was one of the reasons, I mean, that's another plus for me to come in here. I mean,
Yeah.
There you
it was
go.
already, I mean, documented when I came.
Alright, well, this one I think is a little easier, to tackle right now, so I'll make a motion that this be changed where it is not sunset on June 30th this year, but that there is a stipulation that you must work full-time with the authority for a minimum of 8 years prior, and retire from the authority in order to qualify for the health insurance after you retire. Is there a second?
Second.
At least on this one section, is there any other discussion or question? I'm sorry.
May I also add too that there's a lot of things in here that state concern. The reason why there's so much is, and this has to go back to when we kind of opened up, again, like we had turnover like crazy until what, maybe 6 months ago, I guess. And so we're like, what can we possibly do besides wages? We knew we needed to look at wages because everybody was leaving because of wages, but what can we look to do to retain staff, or we attract staff? So we did a survey and we just kind of opened it up. So a lot of the items that staff had brought up were some of the quote unquote concerns that I tasked Carrie to look at.
Well,
So
they
that's-
didn't want to get rid of it, did they?
No, that wasn't one that was, again, when we did a comprehensive evaluation of the entire manual, that was one Carrie
Okay.
pulled out herself. Of course, no employee would
Well, I was
want
just
to
curious.
do that, but that was when she made that recommendation, that was, the thought is, let's allow the current staff to continue on it, but let's sunset it so that anybody that onboards after, July 1 or after is not eligible for it. So that's why, that's why the document is fairly thick, and it's not necessarily things that we as staff wanted to change necessarily, but we wanted to certainly have her evaluate all items that were brought up.
Well, we have a motion and a second on this one. Is there any other discussion about adding in the caveat that you can get 100% retiree health insurance, you just have to retire from here with a minimum of 8 years? All right, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of making this change, please say aye.
Aye.
Alright. So do we need to go back to the donated sick time, or any other, if there's
Yeah.
others?
I've got just another question on the donated sick leave. I know for us, you have to exhaust your leave before asking for donations, and that's across all categories, whether it's sick time. We still have comp time, so sick comp and vacation time before it goes into effect. Our biggest issue we had is when the previous HR person kind of went rogue, the person had not exhausted all that time and then used the sick pool, and that created major issues. Is that part of your policy now, where they have to use their own time?
Do you know if that is the case? So the only examples that I really can speak of that are kind of fresh on my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong or add to it, haven't been for the employee themselves. They've been, we had an employee several years ago that I think that had to do donated sick time correct, but that was so long ago, that may have been pre-COVID even, wasn't it? Possibly.
Yeah, a long time ago.
But the ones we've had since then have been due to family-related matters. So again, that 5-day cap is what hurt them. You know, they can take their 5 days
Sure,
of family sick, and then they are forced to,
To use, vacation but they can't use any more sick time at that point
They-
because of the cap.
They, according to our personnel policy, it does not state that. However, the form that the lawyer had drawn up for us for applying for the donated sick time, he said overrode the personnel policy, and it requires everybody to use up their full sick time and their full vacation time before they're allowed to
Okay.
use the donated time.
so that, it hadn't been often.
Sure.
But, again, when we had that in the discussion, when, that we had with Carrie, when she was looking over all this stuff already, she said, you were asking people to give up an earned benefit for themselves when they may down the road have needed those days they gave up. And so she just really advised doing away with it and just kind of revamping the way we looked at doing it. So
Do y'all have a cap on how much sick time and vacation time you can carry each year?
we do. Yes, sir. We
It goes
do.
by PIVA.
Yes, sir. We follow PIVA's policy.
Okay.
And there was also a cap on this donated sick time too. It was 30 days, 30 work days.
It was, like 30 days, but it was the equivalent of whatever the 30 hours for an 8-hour workday was. So, because we have some employees that are, that are 10-hour days, so
Sure,
it wouldn't be 30 10-hour days for them. And
Okay.
I will say that I've seen it both ways. I have seen examples of individuals who, I'll just say they weren't proactive in planning for potential issues that may arise. And so had no problem with taking their time. And then when something did happen to them, they were not prepared and they were having to rely on others. But I have also seen where it has been a benefit and they have done everything right, and and that donation really kept them afloat.
Carrie and Grant bantered back and forth, and I'm listening to some of the conversations too about some of the considerations, and to have, try to discourage the abuse of it, if you will, or taking it and then all of a sudden you need it. They had even considered, and I don't think it wasn't in here, but there has to be like so many days of leave without pay before they could be eligible for so-called special leave consideration. And even if that was the case, that it would only pay out, almost like you would have with disability, where it would only pay out like 67% of the wages if they were using leave that wasn't an earned leave that they had received. So I think there was a lot of consideration, and no great way to do it. And, I don't guess there's necessarily a bad way, because there's no real requirement of it in the law. But this was just the version that she, that they had recommended after discussing it.
And I know we had some similar, we had language in there from the municipal association that talked about you had to have worked a certain amount of time, but we since have had brand new employee that just had something tragic hit that they couldn't have prepared for or planned for. And so that's where we have that clause for case by case administrator review and approval. Because then we had others where we call them earners and burners. Like as soon as they get a sick hour, they're sick. And so that creates a problem. And so we had a clause that you had to have a balance of so many hours. Well, we had some others where someone had two tragic things with themselves and then with a family member right in a row. It's like, well, So
It's not something that.
that's where the case by case has helped us, but then you just got to make sure that they're taking into account, well, 16 years ago, before you were here, it was handled this way by a very different person. So it's complicated.
So you bring this up, Mr. Ridge. So let me ask this too, if this does go forward, would you, because you mentioned about the administrator, but I think in here it mentions about going to the board, would you want, if it does proceed, would you want to reconsider that, to keep it using the same standard that we have now, where it's myself, Ms. Stevens, and then whoever serving as the board chair to make those considerations as to.
To me, I think you'll have so much more of the background of what's these case by case scenarios. I think that'd be hard. I mean, it'd be a very long executive session for you to bring all the, we're making that decision on employees from, well, we did this 10 years ago, we did this. So I think you've got that knowledge. I feel like that resting with you, but having more than just yourself, because that puts a lot on you. So yeah, I think the way that you just recommended is the best way. I just don't feel like we'd have enough knowledge to know if we're being fair. And
Well, with this being about someone's, you might have to have knowledge about what the health issue is or something like that. And
Sure.
it doesn't need to be spread
exactly.
to everybody. I would rather it stay with you. And then if you need one person with you, just so you have a little bit of cover for yourself as well. Obviously, if it had to do with you, then the board. All right, so there's been a lot of discussion. Is there an actual motion to change this, to reword this, take it out completely? Personally, I kind of like more of the, maybe there's not a formal thing that everybody does it and people feel like they need to contribute if they're just trying to be proactive for themselves or something. Maybe just the case by case and just do it that way. There are other policies out there and laws out there to help FMLA and different things if it really is a long-term and a serious issue. And you can do the rolling. You don't have to use the whole 12 weeks. We've had to do that. But I also don't want to, I'll use myself as an example. We did not have this in my first employment. We couldn't give to someone else. But if we could have, I didn't want to feel pressured that I needed to give something up when I knew I was getting ready to start a family and I was going to use my full 12 weeks.
Right.
So it took me, but I didn't depend on somebody else to give it to me either. So, yes. But having some type of an employee assistance program, so that you can take care of the ones that are going out there doing the job.
The thing too with the building up of sick leave that FEMA's presented to us a couple of times is that, if you can max it out, what you have, it really helps your retirement. So again, that goes back to what Carrie's saying, is this an earned benefit that can help you now if you need it, but also help you down the road when you retire.
Yeah, there is where we are now at Wahalee, you earned up to a certain amount, and then after that, if you keep it for an entire year, then you get a check. You get an extra check.
Yeah,
which sometimes prevents people from taking time when they need
Right.
it because they want the check. In my previous place, there was no limit. You could accrue as much. You didn't get paid for it at the end, but you could accrue as much as you wanted.
And just to let you know, we do not have any type of a buyback program for if you, it's kind of with us, it's use it or lose it. So, there is somewhat of a, folks get to where they've maxed it out. There's no incentive for them not to use it unless they're going to, otherwise at the end of the year, they're just going to lose the time.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Any suggestions, recommendations?
You worded it better than I did. We've talked about a lot of different things. All we've talked about, do you think if we give you a chance to almost go through and take the recommendations that we have here, but then also what we discussed and come back with it again? Or I feel like we've talked about a lot. I don't know if it's
I can, and I actually have received, so I received this like Wednesday after hours
okay.
from Grant. I hadn't even had the opportunity. Again, he's an attorney that had reviewed it. So I didn't even have a chance to look over it until starting on Thursday. That's why it wasn't even incorporated into the manual until I got that back from Carrie. That was Friday after hours on Friday. So that's why you're even
Okay.
voting on this and not the
The
entire
entire thing.
manual, which really incorporates this, but is updated with the legal requirements from
Yeah.
Grant's point that we really don't have any choice but to comply with anyways.
Yeah.
So again, that's why you're
Sure.
considering this and not.
Yeah.
But I think the big push and why it was a little bit of the time and it is of the essence now was, of my hope, knowing that Carrie had included that sunset in there, was to try to have the board approve it or adopt it on June 1st. But if that's not going to be a consideration, then it doesn't have to proceed necessarily that quick and can give the opportunity for a little bit longer review of it.
Could we have a motion that adjust the donated sick leave as discussed in the meeting today? Because I think it would take a while to list out all the bullet points. I don't know, is that specific enough to be a motion, or is that still too vague?
Just pull it out as a standalone policy currently.
Or just have you adjusted as discussed in executive session?
I think I can understand because I made notes
Okay.
in the document and
I can't remember everything I've said. So.
I think I've got it. Lynn does a good job. And,
Okay.
even if I have to, I can go back and
Review
watch
video.
the meeting to pull that out. But I think I have enough with it if you want, if you
Okay.
wish to proceed.
Because again, I like the case by case. I like that authority resting with you, and I think you said the executive director of the board, maybe someone else. Yeah. So I think I'll make a motion. We adjust the donated sick leave as discussed in the meeting today.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion related to the donated sick time? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other suggestions, questions in other sections? And I did have another question on the very first one with the family sick time and the 40 hours calendar. This is allowing people to, just making sure I understand, because I'll admit I didn't read every single word. I hit the highlights of it. Employees could use more than the 40 hours. They would just need to have documentation for it.
Well, this would be what we're kind of talking about now. If we eliminate the donated sick time, they would have to have the special approval to use more than the 40 that we currently allow in family sick.
Yeah, I'm talking about just the very first one, the 40.
So what was, I'm not sure that I understood the question. So I'll explain. The current policy is if an employee uses their the 5 days, call it 5 days for 40 hours.
Is it but it's not,
It doesn't have
doesn't
to
have
be
to be consecutive. It could be throughout the year.
any time in the year. So once they exceed that, then they're not eligible to use. They have to take vacation time for a normal situation. When you get them back onto the pages, I guess it would be on page 4, using the page numbers, at the top or the bottom. It goes into if there's a catastrophic illness or something like that, and that's where it would change it from that donated time to using where they would apply for and be considered for approval, where they can use regular sick time for family purposes.
So there's only 5 days of sick time a year.
5 days of family sick time. We have 12, the equivalent of 12 8-hour days of total sick time. So, but only 5 of those by policy can be used. Is that making sense now?
And I'm hearing what you're saying. I'll tell you that you'll never get a female with children because you've got a couple of children and the flu goes through your family. You're past it.
Oh, that's right.
If we have another COVID incident, if we have something else, I would be more in favor of looking to increase the amount of sick time that they have with parameters, of course. It's keep absolutely, if they're missing 3 consecutive days or more, have a doctor's note. If it is a catastrophic illness, to be able to use FMLA, things like that. But 5 days a year is very low for me.
So I've worked places where you've had it across the board. I've had places where you couldn't use any. If you've had a family sick, this is how it was at REWA. If you had a family member that was sick, you had to take vacation time. You couldn't use leave time. Then I've had other places where sick leave was sick leave. If it was for you or a family member,
Yeah.
you could take sick leave. And then I've worked places like the state where they had a cap on the number of family sick days you could use. So, I've been at kind of both ends of the spectrum and in between. And when I first started here, there's no such thing as a family sick time. It was vacation time only, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this was considered to be kind of that more along the lines of the state, that compromise that you had where you could take some but not all.
Yeah, I think I would be more likely to recommend that it just be sick time. And if it is for their own wellness, then that. If it is to take their spouse to a doctor's appointment because they cannot drive, they're so badly sick, or child or parent. But give them a little bit more freedom to use it as necessary. But that's my opinion. Still have a max of how many sick days you can use, but it's up to them.
I'm fine. This isn't any kind of a deal breaker to me. So if you wish, and the committee here wishes for me to make that consideration, I'll be more than happy to incorporate it into the draft revision if you so choose to do it, with all other factors staying the same. But I think 48 hours of any sick leave, whether it's family or personal,
in a rolling 12-month period.
requires a doctor's note. So, that's kind of the check and balance that we have to try to prevent abuse of sick time for vacation purposes or what have you.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head what we did, so I phoned a friend. I think we do have a limit, but I don't know what it is.
To me, sick time is sick time. To start putting so many in different buckets, it makes it confusing. So I don't mind making a motion to just have sick leave be sick leave and let employees choose how it works best for them and their family.
Do you know what Westminster does?
It's not separated out, it's just.
Oh, you have PTO, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. I know we have some type of limit, but again, I like you do require doctor's notes after so much has been used, regardless of.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
that helps
If you've got
too.
3 consecutive days
Yeah.
to be able to have something good to show you're not just hanging out.
Yeah, and then anything, once you hit that 48 hours, it could be an hour and you go to a doctor's appointment for a teeth cleaning. You have to break in a
they tell
note,
you, do you need a note? It's
Oh, yeah.
not.
So I'm if you wish to make that suggestion or change it from 5 to a separate number, I'm I'm open to that as well.
Well, like I said, I made the motion to at least just combine sick leave as sick leave. We can always talk about more. But is there a second to combining?
You know, second.
Is there any other discussion, or any proposed changes to that? Does it need to be more than 5 days? Is 5 days adequate? I mean,
I think if it's sick leave, it's sick leave, then that,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about that anymore. So,
Well, and that's, too, and I don't know, I'm a little confused now, and I want to make sure there's no confusion. So the family sick leave is the same as sick leave currently. So if we're going to keep a 5-day cap on it, it's the same policy that we already have. It counts as sick leave. It's not a separate bucket. The family sick leave comes out of the sick leave bucket.
But you just, I guess my point is, however it needs to be worded, is yes, when they call you, they're gonna say, little Johnny is sick and I need to take him to the doctor. Okay, that is for a family, but to not have to say, okay, this is one mark against him or her for a family. Just to say, okay, they're taking a sick.
I'm fine with that, and that would help, I think, too, with some of the discussion we've had with the donated leave, and then having to sit here and have special considerations where either the board or the Lynn and myself and the board chair get together to decide if somebody's eligible for additional sick leave to take for family. So that would help that, and I would guess it would make it easier for you from the accounting standpoint of tracking the leave too. So I'm fine with that. If you wish to just make sick leave for anybody that is defined, and it would be for who is defined in the policy. I think it's, children, parents, there's a list.
Grandchild.
That, who is considered to be immediate family and who is not. It's already stated in the policy.
Yes, I would definitely include that definition of immediate family as opposed.
And that's in here too.
It is. Well, we have a motion, second. Any other discussion, questions, recommendations? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
We don't have to fool with this. We just work. They just work. They give us
All right.
PTO. You use it what you want.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other?
Do we need a motion to adopt the other ones that we didn't discuss? Or?
Yeah, we do
As
need to,
written.
we do. You're right.
Yeah.
We need to do this as a whole. Is there a motion to recommend with the changes that have been proposed, this entire document to the board? I'm so sorry. Yes.
Just to make sure for clarification purposes, so this will encompass what we just discussed regarding sick leave, the elimination of donated sick leave, but also the 8 years plus retire from here, correct? What you're about to consider, is that
Plus everything
plus
else in
everything
it.
as written?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any final discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Oh, now the real fun starts. Consideration of fiscal year 2027 budget.
Well, I hope, that you may have had the opportunity to glance through this. This is why I had Kyle here as well. So with the comp study, the comp portion of it is going to require us to go back and revisit some of this. But, in years past, I've provided 2 separate ways for anybody to go look at it. If somebody'd rather read what we're proposing in the budget, you've got that option on to do so on the first several pages. Then in the middle on that 11 by 17 sheet, you've got a list of capital projects and whether or not some of these items have been included in the budget. And then at the back, you see your typical line item budget for the 5 funds that we oversee. 2 of them unrestricted and 3 of them restricted. So I'll just, if you will allow me, I'll just go through each page, kind of looking at it section by section. And as we go through, of course, feel free to stop and ask me any questions that you have. So the customer information is not something that I think I included in previous years as far as the narrative goes with this report, but I felt that it was good to look at now, and especially with the part that I found to be quite interesting when I went through last month, maybe 2 months ago, when I began looking at it and noticed that even though we've gained customers, the volume has gone down.
That's just
I
weird.
would
How's
say
that?
somewhat considerably. And, all we can go on is we go on to the numbers that are reported to us by the cities based on what they're billing for sewer. So, and we've been doing this, I guess this is our 3rd year getting this information, even though we have not always been doing the base and volumetric billing, for, I think this is completing our 2nd year completing that. But we used that previous year to establish what the rates and budget was going to be, based on the pro rata share. So it was very strange to me to see the drop in both sides. I wouldn't have been so much surprised if it would have held steady, but to see the level that it dropped, especially when you look at 8% of the non-residential volume, is a pretty substantial decrease in use. And since the board had considered a 5% rate increase on the volumetric only, it really affects us pretty considerably when you look at the line items for what we collect in the user fees. So when you do look at that, the line item sheet back here, the user fees, even with that 5% volumetric increase, we're only seeing an additional $33,000 worth of revenue, or a 0.5% increase from fiscal year 26 to 27, and what that is. Again, that was not expected when we began doing this, looking at this several years ago, especially when you add customers to the system. Annual operating budget. So we'll go through each of these page by page. So starting to look at, yes.
I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes because I've got another meeting at 10:30.
Mhm.
So just giving you a heads up, and let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we'll try to move ahead.
So we'll, again, you can glance through the revenues. I explained the obvious one is the biggest amount that we receive is going to be coming from those user fees. So you can look and see that on page 2. Then you get into the expenses. Again, the administration budget does include the recommendation from Find Great People regarding compensation. So that will have to be modified. And that will, obviously change with the merit percentage as opposed to.
Well, I would
merit.
recommend, since this is just a recommendation, to include both, and then that way you're prepared regardless for the board.
Okay. And then, let's see, the meat of what we do obviously is going to be in the conveyance, treatment plant, and the department budgets. So the goal for the coming year has been to get the plant back up to 100% capacity, where we're able to treat 7.8 million gallons a day. So we do have a number of projects in the operating budget. We also have a transfer out of the operating budget, besides the one that you just approved. This is a budgeted transfer that would transfer $500,000 to the capital projects fund to fund whether it's a Speeds Creek force main replacement in the future, or to fund additional capital projects. The coming year, the bulk of our capital projects will be in in that fund as opposed to like we did this current year where we included some operating capital items in the WO&M fund. The only large item I think that we have remaining in the WO&M fund is the completion of the final clarifier number 3 rebuild. And that's going to be through carryover funds from the current year. So I don't know how in depth you would like me to get into each of these, just to try to keep on your schedule, Mr. Ferris, so that you have the opportunity to vote to send this to, or modify it, send it to the board. But are there questions on this? Do you want me to go over any more information into that budget for WO&M? All right, so we'll get into the capital projects fund, which begins on page 7 of 14, using the numbers at the top. Again, if you go through and you begin looking down at the expenses there, you'll see that there's about $3.7 million of expenses in that.
It should get us to
That'll get
where
you
we
back.
can operate and actually send flow through the plant to meet our,
That'd be a good thing.
Yeah, we've got an entire aeration chain,
that we can't even.
train that can't be used. That'll, we've got inoperable gates that haven't been used in 20
20 years.
or more years. So this will get us back to that point. But in order to get to that point, there'll also be a drawdown of and it would be a budgeted use of fund balance of about $323,000 to allow us to move that forward. So by doing it that way, we're still satisfying the requirements that we hope that if we ever need, or if we're ever in the position to go and issue debt, that we will still meet that 120 days cash on hand in our operating budget, but can draw down on these other funds too. And we used to do this through what was called funded depreciation that went away. How long ago was that? 4 or 5 years ago, I think is when we stopped funding depreciation of 57% into this, the equivalent of this current budget. Wholesale impact, retail impact funds, those are both the impact fee funds that we collect. We don't have any anticipated projects associated with those, but we do have revenues that are expected with each of those. And then the retail O&M fund, which is going back to page 5, that is what funds the retail sewer that we own, operate, and maintain along the interstate. The portion of the contract operated for Oconee County is funded out of the WO&M fund. So with that, I'll be more than happy, Kyle will be more than happy to go into as much detail as you would like regarding any of these items that we have.
Any follow-up questions on the narrative that was presented? We knew on the spreadsheet of the capital projects, a couple of partials. How far partial? Are we talking just stage 1? Are we talking about not starting those until we find out if there's going to be some additional funding? How do you determine the partial?
So the partial, so what we have budgeted for this coming year, the very first one you come to is the digester sludge holding tanks mixer replacement for number 1. The partial that we have on there is we had budgeted to pull that out, since we're going to have a crane on site and it's going to require that, is to begin pulling that and then to make an assessment to whether it can be rebuilt or whether it's going to be replaced.
Okay.
So that's where the partial for that one comes from.
It's more of a while you're here, let's not
That's
have
right.
to pay with brain twice.
And then the next one is the same exact thing. That's the day tank mixer. Is the exact same situation that we have included in the budget to pull it and assess it. But beyond that, we'll just have to evaluate and find out what the next step will be. But
That'll
we do
get you
have.
closer to being fully on
For those,
capacity.
But neither of those are deal
Yeah,
killers.
that's the process, it really don't have to.
Yeah, helps keep up with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are both, they're not, neither one of them are deal killers, that if we don't have them fixed, that we're not gonna be able to flow through the plant.
That
So,
makes sense. Bring that.
and then, I think that those should be it, with both of those. We do have a budgeted transfer, and it's listed in the narrative as $500,000 for the Speeds, to go toward the Speeds Creek force main replacement. If that is indeed, when the time comes, that we have the funds available to replace it, that would be the priority to use on. But if there comes to be a higher priority for whatever reason, we transferred $500,000 to be used for another purpose. We will be obviously seeking grants and other opportunities, and right now with the speeds in mind, we're in preliminary engineering with that anyway. So I think come this time next year, we hope to have a better idea of how we could possibly fund that, and we should have a set of plans ready to go for
Speed
bid if we
Is it 14 inch?
14
currently?
inch, yes sir.
Okay.
But good question.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to recommend the proposed fiscal year 27 budget to the full board?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any other comments? Are there any questions and recommendations? All right. All those in favor of moving the budget onto the full board, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good job of doing the personnel policies first. Ready to move. All right, so schedule of fees update, Exhibit G. I know you need to go. Thank you. We had to go.
Just call me if you have any questions.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. There's very few changes in the schedule of fees, a definition or two, I think, but this one is redlined. I think the last one was much more comprehensive to what we were looking at as far as change, which required it to be a little bit more of a intense focus. But here you should be able to see the standout change. The major items that changed as far as
Look, I have that.
I had to,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
No, I didn't see the G. I thought this was the personnel. My apologies.
Oh,
It's
you're
right
fine. The primary changes that you see in here have to do with the 5% volumetric increase that the board had considered at the last meeting. So you'll see that in several different places. One would be in section 1, where it is with the volumetric for residential customers. You'll see it in the retail service, which they have a standard rate for residential and non-residential. They pay the same volumetric fee. And then you'll see it reflected as well in the non-residential user fees as well. We did have, and we always do have, an annual study to consider the cost, what it does take to treat a gallon of wastewater here, or 1,000 gallons of wastewater. So we again had that done this year by a local engineering consultant, and that information was used in their recommendations, were that most of our other fees could remain or would remain the same for the coming year, that we would be able to cover those costs of what we currently are collecting. On page 9, you'll see the removal of some language regarding subdivisions and grandfathering customers and that type of thing.
Mhm.
Those are in the impact fee policy, so there's no need to have redundant wording here when it's already addressed in another policy. And the impact fee FY26 is going away, so that's stricken from here, and FY27, which was approved last year, remains the same. And I believe that's the bulk of the changes we have. Of course, I'll entertain any questions that you may. Oh, I did add a section here too about refunds, so that if it generally says when it primarily has to do with a customer that has a bill dispute or whatever, that we will follow whatever the water purveyor's policy is regarding how they do refunds, since that honestly should be handled at y'all's level. And so then we're going to use your information anyways. So that addresses it, because we don't have a policy in place for how we handle refunds or that type of matter in the past.
Is there a motion to approve the proposed revisions to the schedule of fees, including the 5% volumetric increase?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right,
That was to recommend to the board to approve that,
Yes.
right? Okay. I just wanted to-
I apologize, you're correct. It is to recommend to the board, we are not actually approving. Yes. Executive Director's discussion and compliance matters, personnel policy revision.
Personnel policy, I think I covered everything I was going to say with that regarding the incorporation of whatever was approved into the actual document itself for consideration. So that, I think that's been well covered already. So there's no need to go any further with that. The only miscellaneous item I have is what I forwarded out last week, that Governor McMaster did sign into law that Senate Bill 829, I believe is the number, and that is regarding the recommendation that come out of the Reconstitution Committee and the committees that led to that one prior to, I believe you served on the prior committee that helped draft some of the language of that legislation. So that has been approved, and I had a text message from Angie Metlin. I know she's had some, not her, but I think she's had some family medical issues. But I think that they're going to, I believe they're going to put together some type of a communication memo and get that out so that everybody's getting the same bit of information from the facilitators, much like all the other documents have been. So those are the only 2 items I have. Thank you.
Is there any discussion among the committee that we would like to bring up at future meetings? Since it may be a couple months before we have a meeting, maybe not. All right. I know this one was a little bit longer, but thank you all for staying engaged and getting some changes made today. There are no other comments or discussion. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are officially adjourned.